Halida and Rachel are going to share their presentation, so go right ahead.
So, good morning, everyone. My name is Hatic, and I work for an organization in Louisville, Kentucky called the Center for Interfaith Relations. And I'm joined today by Rachel Holmes with the Nature Conservancy. And my organization works to promote interfaith understanding, cooperation, and action. And so you might be asking yourselves, why are we here? And the reason being is we have co-created a beautiful little project in Louisville, Kentucky called a landscape audit for sacred spaces. And the audit itself is a methodology or a protocol that has been jointly developed by faith communities in Louisville, the Center for Interfaith Relations, my organization, the Nature Conservancy, and another national organization called Green Faith. And the intent of the project is to help communities of faith learn about the ecological benefits of their property and to help them identify achievable goals to improve their landscape, both for people and for nature, and as you've heard, ultimately to help us solve some of the more challenging problems that we have in Louisville. So Rachel and I are going to focus on two main components of our project today in the very short time that we have. The first is partnerships. Great minds, we can do so much more together. And a big part of this project really has been about nurturing relationships. And we have been able to cultivate a shared vision for the project that has resulted in strong partnerships that are mutually beneficial. They're organic, they're honest, they're creative, and most importantly, it's proven to be very successful. So I'll spend a little time peeling back the layers of this kind of partnership story and the genesis of the project. And then Rachel, I'll turn it over to her, and she will unpack the second component, which is really the audit itself and the methodology and the tools that comprise the audit. We didn't have to reinvent the wheel, which is always a good thing, but we did have to listen, and we had to connect, and we had to support each other in order to co-create this methodology that teaches and supports a diverse, multi-faith audience. So as you heard from Maria, Louisville has a number of challenges, including poor air quality and one of the fastest, or the fastest, growing urban heat island in the nation. So we have a lot of work to do, and despite the environmental challenges with which we are faced, we're making huge strides to improve the health and well-being of our community, and to turn those challenges into true opportunities. So as some examples, Louisville is truly a leader in the Compassionate Cities movement. We have earned the title of Model International Compassionate Cities for 5 years running. And this takes a lot of political will and a lot of courage, and I think that we as a city have demonstrated both. As Maria mentioned, more recently we were selected to be part of the 100 Resilient Cities Network, which I think is brilliant. And we're also exploring both promise and possibility by offering our community and our neighborhood as an urban laboratory. So you'll see projects like Maria highlighted and that I'm talking about here as an example of, us as a community thinking globally but acting locally and sharing our wisdom and our experiences with the world. And then finally, for a number of different reasons, we have a religiously and culturally diverse community which has a very rich history of celebrating, promoting, and supporting interfaith collaboration and action. And in fact, my organization hosts an annual event called the Festival of Faith, which is fast approaching and is now in its 22nd year. So there's been lots of dialogue in our community around issues such as this. And people of faith and communities of faith are emerging not just on the local scene, but as you heard earlier, on global level, as leading voices in our collective environmental consciousness. I think the frame of climate change as being a moral issue isn't a new one, but it's one that we're going to start to hear over and over and over again through voices like His Holiness the Dalai Lama and Pope Francis, and now our wonderful little community in Louisville. And so we know from history that faith leaders have ushered in incredible change throughout time. And it's a thanks in part to these factors that our little landscape audit was born. So this is a picture of where the magic all happened. This is the organization, the home where I work, and above our entrance is a photograph of His Holiness and Thomas Merton, who is a beloved Trappist monk. And lots of amazing things happen when people come into our office. And so the genesis of this project was really 4 people sitting around a table with truly noble intentions, with shared values, and with a desire to collaborate. We had no agenda, we had no idea what we were going to come up with, but we knew we wanted to do something meaningful together. So at the time, the center had been partnering with our neighbor, our literally connected and adjacent neighbor, the Cathedral of the Assumption, which is the Catholic Cathedral in Louisville, Kentucky, on doing an energy audit. And in conversations around this table with the Nature Conservancy, we started to realize that there wasn't a similar resource available for assisting faith communities with assessing the health and well-being of their living landscapes, not kind of an equivalent to an energy audit. And so from there, the idea was to co-create this methodology was born. So the partnership exists of the organizations I mentioned. I'm going to have to go a little faster here. And really, CIR was able to bring the people and the street cred. TNC was able to bring the science and the technology. And Green Faith has been able to bring the amplification. And so, just to kind of summarize quickly, we hosted 3 in-person meetings over the course of 9 months. We had initial conversations, feedback sessions, roundtable trainings, and then sent the folks off to do their work and provided some more support as they were doing that. It was a pretty simple process, but had huge results. And these are the 4 institutions that participated in the pilot: my organization, a Catholic high school, all-boys Catholic high school, River Road Mosque, the Islamic Center, and Christ Church Cathedral. So we had diversity of location in terms of urban versus suburban, as well as diversity of age of participants and diversity of faith traditions, which was important to us as an organization. And my last just sort of comments are just that to have a successful partnership, it's really important that you check your agenda at the door, that you're kind of organic with your relationships and flexible, and that you remember that it's got to start being kind of based on shared values and be mutually beneficial and have a shared need. So I'm going to hand it over to Rachel to kind of walk you through the nuts and bolts of the tool itself, and look forward to questions at the end. Thank you.
Right? So before I begin, I just would love to know how many conservationists are in the room right now? Excellent, excellent. Well, I would like to say that it's a wonderful privilege to be here, where usually the public health officials are sort of in the minority in the room, so it's wonderful to see that the conservationists are here and we're representing, so this is wonderful. So as Halida said, she sort of walked you through how the partnership formed, and what I'm going to do now is just talk to you a little bit about and give you a very high-level overview of what the audit is. And so she pointed out that we didn't need to reinvent the wheel, which I thought was really a beautiful thing that came out of the work that we've been doing at the Nature Conservancy with urban forestry across the country, as well as what Green Faith has currently been doing with audit programs for themselves. So I just want to point out the key to this work is not just to stop at the data. The key is to analyze and plan for action. It's not enough just to know what you have out there. It's more important to know what you have so that you can manage that landscape. And like many civic ecology efforts, the beauty is also in the process. When people are out with their equipment, whether that's a clipboard or a smartphone using an app to collect data, they start to see that that wooded area behind the basketball court is actually a critical wetland that can support wildlife. And so we had a few guiding principles for the audit as we were creating it. And again, what we did the best we could to leverage tools and methodologies that we already knew existed through other work we've been doing. But we wanted to make sure that above all else, that this audit and protocol was as accessible to people as possible, with the idea that when it goes national, it can be accessible to anyone regardless of what funds they have within their community, what skill level, knowledge base. So these are just some of the principles. Obviously, no cost for participation. We didn't want people to have any kind of fancy clinometer or DBH tape. All you need is a string and a ruler. And then we wanted well-supported methods. So if you, for example, needed a little bit more assistance in how to evaluate the landscape or how to identify the health of your tree, we have plenty of videos, fact sheets that are available for somebody to do their own learning. And perhaps one of the most important also is that we wanted this audit or this protocol to be available for people who are differently abled. Not everybody's comfortable being outside. Some people might want to instead be indoors, uploading the data on one of our protocols. And then finally, community connectivity. Wanted to make sure that what data people were learning and reading about or gaining from the landscape would be directly applicable to other partners within the communities, be that a nursery, other conservation professionals, et cetera. So as Halida said, we had a series of focus group sessions, and I'm going to go sort of quickly through these because there will be follow-up resources for you available to read each one of these. But I will say, so there's 4 pieces: tree canopy assessment, landscape mapping, grounds management, and then worship and community. And as an urban forester myself, I'm very excited to say that people prioritize #1, tree canopy assessment. And I already complimented Dr. Patz on his wonderful cell job of trees, but I did also want to point out that trees also absorb particulate, which is critical to this conversation as well. And by the way, just a little shameless plug, our trees are also at risk from climate change, so maybe that'll be next year's conference. So without getting too into detail, as I said, you'll have access to resources that'll go through these 4 modules more in detail. Tree canopy assessment really is about not just looking at what your trees are, where they are, but more importantly, how healthy are they? And in doing that, looking at not just, what are the signs and symptoms of how well they are or how healthy they are, but also, are they impacted by the emerald ash borer, for example, or any other insects and diseases that threaten our urban tree canopy as we know it today? Then again, the one that I wanted to highlight for you is also worship and community. So this was basically taking a simple questionnaire and inviting people to start asking some questions. Are we integrating concepts of nature and stewardship into our liturgy whenever we possibly can, or does it just come out around Earth Day? Maybe there are other things, Tu B'Shavat, maybe the Feast of St. Francis. Maybe these are opportunities when we really can be talking more about what it means not just to love nature, but to care for nature. And so we have been presenting on this. We've been getting some questions, thank you, about where the project is. People have said, hey, where can I get it? We're really interested in this. And so just wanted to let you know that we are actually in the process now of taking the information and the feedback we received from the pilot this past fall and making some updates. We're diversifying some of our opportunities a little bit. And we envision a national launch for the fall of 2017 or early spring 2018. But what I really want to do with the remaining time I have left is just share with you why this was important. So as Halida said, check your agenda at the door. We didn't want to say, hey, I'm here from the Nature Conservancy, here's a tool, go ahead and use it. This was about us saying, what information would be beneficial to your community? What do you think your people want to know, and what are your goals? And so I just want to read 2 brief quotes for you, one of which was spoken by a partner that we had at the Louisville Islamic Center, who said, "The mosque for Muslims is the most sacred place that we have in our community. If you don't care for your place of worship, my personal belief is that it's very disrespectful to our Creator." And then one of our other participants, Reverend Joan Pritchard, who's at the Christ Church Episcopal, said to us, "Faith has to be relevant for people in their everyday lives. It's especially difficult to reach young people. Opportunities like this appeal to people we aren't as successful reaching through traditional faith community activities like worship and Bible study." And then finally, I want to leave you with this slide. Halida and I and another colleague had the opportunity to present on this project at an urban forestry conference back in November. And I put this slide up there, and we got the most feedback of our entire presentation on this one slide. And early on in the conversation, I asked how many conservationists were out there. What I would like you folks to do is think of yourselves also as a conservationist. And more importantly, think about those motivations that have brought you here today. For some people, that's a belief in something else. For others, that's simply ethical humanism. But the point that I wanted to make here is that it's time to join the discourse. I know a lot of folks are leery of engaging in conversation because they don't feel comfortable using specific words. I pray, okay? It's okay to admit that out loud. I'm a conservationist, and I'm in the pew on Sunday, but I'm out in the field on Monday. So I do think it's really important for us to show some leadership, to engage in that conversation and bridge those gaps, because they really matter. And this is the work, the interdisciplinary work that we need to do to start creating the change that we have to see yesterday. So thank you very much.